So we have joining us from Clay, Pooja Goyal, Head of Strategic Planning, Founding Years Learning Solutions. She's an acclaimed educator working to transform early childhood and K-12 education systems in India. She speaks on the issue of changing education systems in paradigms, neuroscientific approaches to parenting, and of course, entrepreneurship. She's an explorer. She loves to try new things. She likes to try interesting cuisines and read new books. She's a thinker. She develops frameworks to explain children behavior and reactions. She is adaptable and she is curious.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a really inspiring and energizing morning. I've had, just in this short period, diverse conversations from sex and desire to coaching and leadership, careers. Really happy to be here among all of you. And Ramya, I have to tell you, you're really young at heart. Friends and Big Bang Theory are two of the most favorite serials for my daughter, who's 14 years old. So as I started, and I know I'm keeping you from lunch, so I'll try and keep it short. As I started to think about my life story, I was asked to speak on my Take Charge story. It was actually a very rewarding exercise because I had to go back and think of some of the experiences that I've had. And as I started to think of those experiences, I thought pretty much a lot of you would have gone through that. And it gave me an opportunity to analyze the why and how. When those things were happening, why did I do what I did? And how did I manage the situations I was in? So I'll talk about three things. Trajectory. Is there a PowerPoint? Yeah. Trajectory, balance, and design. Trajectory, and I'll tell you what I mean by those. Trajectory, the trajectory of life. And pretty much, I think all the speakers since the morning have touched upon this in some form or fashion. When we start out, 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, full of enthusiasm, life, sparkle in our eyes, we feel that the trajectory of life is a linear curve. Kind of goes up and up and up and up. You get into a good school, you get into a good college, and then you get a good job, and then you get a good husband, and two beautiful children, house with white picket fences, and then you climb up the career ladder, and that's how the life goes, right? Trajectory of life, linear. But where does this happen? This only happens on Facebook. Perfect lives, perfect families, vacationing in Hawaii and Switzerland, smiling, perfect children receiving awards for sports achievement and also Spell Bee champions, perfect careers. You're going up on stage, receiving awards and just climbing up the career ladder. But IRL, and this is a term I learned from Aranya. I was like, IRL, what is that? Do you know, did you figure out what is IRL? No, sorry, you're always on Twitter, so you don't, so somebody else, what is IRL? You are also Twitterati, so in real life, this was like, I was very proud of myself, I figured it out. In real life, the trajectory of life looks something like, the next slide, something like this. Ups and downs and ups and downs, and sometimes the view is nice, and sometimes you're down in the dungeons, right? I grew up in Jaipur, the youngest of 4 sisters, very protected. I was generally good in studies, math, science, history, geography, biology, generally topping the school. And then when 10th came, everybody is anyway asking you, so what are you doing? What are you doing? I had not thought about anything. I happened to get selected for this exam called NTSC, National Talent Search Examination, and it is a multi-level test. There is a city level, state level, national level, and then the interview. So I got selected, and the state, Rajasthan, used to run a camp where we could go, and they would give us money to prepare for it so that we could, shine at the national level. So I went for this test from an all-girls school. And every other person I asked, so the boys who were there, I asked them, so what are you going to be doing next? And every second boy said, IIT. I was like, what the hell is IIT? In my family, there was no engineer, no doctor. I had three brother-in-laws. The middle brother-in-law, he was the one who had some notion of education. So I went up to him and I said, what is IIT, Jiju? So he said, IIT is a wonderful institution. In those days, you didn't have the Fiji and the Allens and all of that. You only had Agarwal and Brilliance at that time. It was just, used to get packets in email at that time. So in a city like Jaipur, I had not heard of it in an all-girls school. It says it's a wonderful institution, but it's very difficult to get in. Okay. So I said, I think I want to be an engineer. So he said, okay, then take math. Go ahead. I went to the school. I found out that the school didn't have math. They said, you can only do biology or arts. Those were the only two options because nobody else ever wanted to do math. But they agreed. They said, look, if you're really interested, you can sit for the exam. We can make that exam available, but there will be no teachers, and you'll be on your own. My Jiju said, it's okay if you're really keen, we'll figure it out. And he was not a teacher. He works with Reserve Bank of India. He said, we'll figure it out. I'll help you out. Go ahead. And I took math. There was no teacher in school. And I think that was probably my saving grace because, I did not get indoctrinated into the system of math and I had to figure all of it out on my own. So I appeared for JEE 2 years later, got through JEE, went to IIT Delhi. I was up there on the hill. It was like, wow, done it. No other person in the family had ever gone to IIT. Again, whatever your rank was, the counselor said, oh, you're a girl. You should be in the lab. So chemical engineering will make more sense for you versus mechanical engineering. So I said, okay, chemical engineering it is then. And then when you're on the top, where can you go from there? Down, right? I reached IIT, and every other person I met, I thought, everybody else here is smarter than me. It seems there has been some mistake. I don't belong here. I'm not as smart as any one of them. I thought I didn't look good. And now I know there is a term for it. Anybody? That term? Where you feel like you don't belong, and especially women are afflicted with it. Imposter syndrome, exactly. Imposter syndrome. Read it up. A lot of women have talked about it. Natalie Portman, Amy Cuddy. So I thought, I don't belong here. And I was down in the dumps there, down in the dungeons, saying, what have I done? 13 girls in a class of 300 children, so 50 girls on a campus with 1,000 boys. I'd come from Jaipur, 3 older sisters, and that's it, right? I thought, darkness. And started clawing my way back up, survived, had fun. I really enjoyed as well. But I continued to believe that there was some mistake in the JEE paper because of which they selected me. Once I graduated, life was good. Got a job. I didn't want to do chemical engineering. Went into strategy consulting. Moved to the US. did my MBA at INSEAD in France. I was working with Adobe, managing the Acrobat product line in the US. I met my husband during this period, 2 children. Life was rosy. As I was on a bigger peak up there. The view was nice. And I could relate a lot to what Ashwini was talking about life in the US, right? When my first daughter happened, I was back at work. In 7 weeks, I was back at work. And when my second daughter happened, I was back at work at 10 weeks. And so both my husband and I doing well, children doing well, we're all set. And when you're enjoying the view at the top, where can you go? Down. Parents were getting old. My mother and my father-in-law had a sudden heart attack. My mother-in-law was diagnosed with a late-stage cancer. My father was not keeping well. So we decided to come back to India for 2 years. My husband with SAP and I with Adobe. And both organizations were tremendously supportive of us moving here. So I moved back to India with 2 little children, 1 year and 3 years at that time. The same girl who was 3 at that time is 14 now. And I joined, and I started going to work. And then I realized it was bloody damn hard. I couldn't find a nanny. I couldn't find a maid. The concept of daycare did not exist. I was sleeping on an average 4 hours a day. And the organization was tremendously supportive. They said, Pooja, why don't you do part-time? Why don't you do work from home? Just see this through somehow. It's just not working out. But what also I was realizing was there's a huge opportunity. If I am in that position, how many women are out there who are looking for a quality preschool and a quality daycare? And a friend of mine who's a batchmate from IIT, Shivani, was moving back as well, and we started this conversation. I said, well, let's do it. Why don't we start a preschool or daycare? And a lot of people said, what? Chemical engineer? And you were trying to do a preschool and daycare? A lot of questions in mind at that time. We also decided that we would stay bootstrapped because we were looking for flexibility. We did not want to take external money at that time. So we decided to stay bootstrapped and went on. IntelliThoughts did really well. We, 1 center became 2 centers, became 3 centers, 4. And our approach was always, let's make one profitable, then start the next, and so on. So this was even better because I was making money. I had flexibility. I could pick up my kids from school. There was a waiting list, a line outside the school for children wanting to get, parents wanting to get in. This is better. I control my own time. The view from the top was wonderful. And then what happens? Down, right? 2-3 years ago, as we started to grow, we had 6 centers, and we started getting a lot of interest from corporates to set up, given this maternity benefits bill. I don't know how many of you are familiar with that, but now every company needs to have a daycare center. So we started getting inquiries from Apollo to IBM to GE to set up daycares across the country, and for that we needed capital. Between Shivani and I, we were not, Shivani was very uncomfortable with taking external capital. We had lots of discussions, and then we decided if we can't do that, then let's exit. So the discussions with Clay were going on. Priya, who's the CEO of Clay, said they wanted to acquire us, IntelliThoughts. We said, wonderful, let's go for it. And these conversations were going on, but this is not down in the dungeons yet. There was an accident at IntelliTots. So one child got hurt. And thankfully, no major irrecoverable damage. The parents decided to make it a big deal that it was out in the media, in the public, and this is the first time I'm speaking about it. We got trolled. Shivani and I got trolled. There were people saying the place for such people is behind bars. They need to be thrown out of the country. Whatever they're doing for money. These guys should be hanged to death. Some of the newspapers printed that the child had lost her finger. Some newspapers printed the child lost her arm. And I thought, the darkest phase of my life. The only thing that I was thankful for was that the child was safe, everything. But I felt, how am I going to emerge out of this? The one thing that I earned during my life is gone. Sleepless nights. And then one morning, I was leaving for work, swollen eyes, and my 10-year-old daughter, the younger one, she said, "Mama, why are you upset?" And she'd seen it, she knew about everything that was going on. And she said, "Why are you upset?" And I said, "Bacha, you know what's going on." She said, "Mama, people who know you or who matter already believe in you." And I still get tears thinking about that because, and I said, yeah, people who matter are all standing besides me, and people who don't matter, people who don't matter can keep saying what they're saying. I'm sure, Aranya, faced this. You're nodding, right? So, and Sari talked about it. And I went out there, and believe me, really all the people who mattered stayed with us. So my biggest fear was we have discussions going on with Clay. How will that happen? We had discussions going on with some of the corporates, parents, teachers. And I kid you not, I'm really saying everybody stood by us. It had been an 8-9-year-old association, and they all stood by us. And that, again, the climbing back began from there, where the biggest learning happened there. That through the process of these many years, what you earn is this big support network, right? So I'm on my way to clawing back up. The acquisition happened in January of this year. IntelliTots is now part of Clay, and I am driving all the initiatives that I wanted to do at IntelliTots but was not able to. So some of the things like Creche in the Box that we are launching here with SHEROES is an attempt to enable a lot of women to start up daycares and preschools and for Clay to be able to support that process. So that's the trajectory of life. Should we get to? Thank you. So one of the things that I learned, each time all of that learning happens only when you're stuck there, deep down in the dungeon, the dark place. Because there you have nowhere to go but yourself inside and think why you're doing what you're doing and how you're going to make your way back up. Next slide, please. And what I realized was there's a balance of life. There are there have been 4 key things that have been important to me: self, work, family, and community, right? Self just has to be, you have to be strong mentally, physically, emotionally to be able to do justice to any of the 3 other things: work, family, community. Family, so, and at different stages, the emphasis shifts from one thing to another. When you're starting out at 18, 20, 22, you're not thinking about self, you're not thinking about family, you're not thinking about community. You're like, I have it, I can do it, I am going to conquer the world. You're thinking about work and all of what you can do. And that's the time to go for it, right? As you go to the next stage, when you have family, children, you begin to balance family and work, and then realize you've lost yourself in the process at some point. You compromise on your health, you compromise on what's important to you, and then comes the balancing act, right? So pretty much all through your life, there is this balancing act. And I was thinking, yeah, I think it's good to maintain balance. That should be the goal of life, right? At this stage, to have a good balance between. I thought, yeah, I haven't figured it out. And then I had a friend visiting from the US. He was with me at IIT, and he is now a very well-known researcher in cancer research, doing some cutting-edge work. And we were having lunch. He was talking about his children, his family, saying how well he's doing, how well his children are doing. And he said, but Pooja, my health has really taken a beating. So, you know, my vitals are all off, my cholesterol is high, my blood pressure is high, I have sleep apnea, so I can't sleep more than 2-3 hours a night. Saying, get a hold of yourself, man. What are you doing? You got to take care of your health. You got to strive for some balance. And I was giving him this gyan about how balance is very, very important. And he heard me for a little while. Then he looks up to me and says, but Pooja, nothing extraordinary was ever achieved through balance. I was like, that makes sense. Doesn't it? You know, all these people you see, the passionate people, at some point or the other, there is some level of imbalance. So, but that is a personal choice. You need to decide at what stage of life, what is important and what level of balance is important to you and to me. And what might be important to you might not be the same for me, and it might vary from a life stage perspective as well, right? So that is the story of the balance of life. And now I get to the third one, which is the design of life. So how do you design a very good trajectory? And I was trying to draw this, but was not able to. So this rolling hills that you see, this is still a two-dimensional thing, right? You still feel like you are on one track and going like this. In reality, this could be going in any different direction. This could be going in 5 different directions. And at different life stages, the decisions you make, you could be headed down a very different path. So most of us have this notion that there is this one perfect life for us. If only we get that, we'll be really happy. If only I cross like the 10 million views, right? Or if only I get to the CEO position, or if only I, as an entrepreneur, just do IPO, that's the path for me. But there's no one single path. There's just many different paths. And when I think about my life journey, and I go back to my 10th grade time when I decided to take math, I there was a possibility where I could have said, how will I do math without this thing? Let me take biology. And I might have been a doctor. And you guys might all have been a room full of doctors. And we could be having a conversation. And that would have been an equally fulfilling life. Right? So I guess the key is to know what you want out of life, at what stage, and whatever you believe. If you believe you can, or if you believe you can't, you will probably be proven right. Thank you.
Check. Thank you so much, Pooja, for that. I think you had the audience transfixed in your narrative. We want to say thank you to you for coming here and sharing your story with us.
Thank you.
And closing notes, walking down memory lane, looking at the why and how of life and its landscape on a trajectory to balance by design, #IRL, lifted up and then shattered to smithereens, lifted up again to discover opportunity and grow and explore entrepreneurship and more, picking up the pieces in the process of clawing up to the view, bringing in a balance to life like a tightrope walk, life in 4 dimensions, designed beyond a mere 2D, trending and trudging through many, many paths, building a fulfilling life. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.